You're listening to Insights with Philip Wilson, where the discussion focuses on how to maximize Social Security benefits. Considering there are 567 ways to file and 3,000 rules for filing, it's no wonder that 90% of those who file for Social Security do not receive their maximum benefits. Listen in as Philip Wilson, who is certified in Social Security claiming strategies, outlines what you need to know to get the most from your Social Security benefits.
Welcome to the show. Today I want to continue our discussion of the most important financial decision that you will make in your lifetime. It's a decision that over 90% of the population does not make correctly. 90%. So 9 out of 10 people listening to this program right now have not or will not make the correct financial decision. How in the world can that be? How can so many people make a mistake in this area? I mentioned last week the biggest reason is that people are not informed. This is a big reason why I'm doing this radio show, because a tremendous amount of information is necessary for this decision. You need to know your stuff. There's a lot of complexity to it. It's the biggest reason why I teach seminars. You can find me every week at some venue around town, a library, a church, civic center, somewhere, talking about this subject. I spend a lot of time every week doing this. I'm out a lot at night, on the road a lot, away from my family. But it's important to me to inform the public, because so many people make mistakes in this area, and it really is not an area that so many people should make mistakes in. It's just an area that very little resources are available to people to make the decision, and the resources that are out there are not really resources. People think they're getting help, but they're not really getting help. But the biggest reason why people make this mistake is they're just not aware. It's not just the information. They're not aware of the importance of the decision. They're not aware this is something that they should go to a seminar. They should listen to a radio show. They should read a book. They should talk to their advisor. It's just they're just not aware of the importance of the decision. The decision we've been talking about is the decision of when and how you file for Social Security benefits. I say that that's the most important financial decision that you will make in your lifetime. Over 90% of people in the population do not make that decision correctly. So 9 out of 10 people go their entire life paying into the system, money cut out of their paycheck, whether they want to or not. They get to retirement, they file for their benefit, they do not receive their maximum amount. Last week we talked about why Social Security was the most important financial decision. And I just want to take a second to review that. When I help people with retirement, what is the most important thing to me is not the size of their portfolio. That is important. But what's important to me for real security in retirement is that they have income streams for life. Streams of income that you cannot outlive. As long as you have a pulse, they're there. Whether you're 85, 95, 105, you have a source of income. Most people going into retirement are not going to be prepared for the number of years they spend in retirement. They're going to run out of assets. Somebody's going to get sick. Somebody's going to die. These streams of income are vital for this generation going into retirement, unlike never before. This is the first generation that will ever experience more years in retirement than they did working. People going into retirement right now are expected to live 25, 30, or 40 years in retirement. Most people that I meet with every week are just not prepared for that. They try the best they can to be prepared for it, but they just don't have enough time. They just do not have enough assets for that. They are not prepared for living such a long life in retirement, especially if something doesn't go well, a medical bill, somebody gets sick, somebody dies. The importance of the Social Security decision is that it's the largest income stream that most people have in their life. Very few people have pensions these days. Most employers phase those out. So for the rest of us, Social Security is the largest income and really the only income stream that we have in life. So I believe the decision of when and how you file for Social Security is the most important financial decision that you will make in your lifetime. Studies have shown that over 90% of people filing for Social Security do not receive their maximum benefit. That's probably surprising to you. Why? Well, Are you aware that there's 3,000 Social Security filing rules? There's over 500 different ways to file. Most people think there's maybe one decision that you make with filing. That's what age do you file? But there's actually over 500 different ways to file. Most people are not aware that the Social Security office is not going to really help them. It's not going to give them advice. Their job is to process your paperwork. Their job is to determine your eligibility. Their job is not to help you do planning. You have to know how to file. That's what we're talking about today. And probably a final reason why so many people make mistakes is because there's very little advisor training in this area. Early in my career, I was also, just like most of the advisors that I run into, I did not know very much about this area. This was all self-taught for me. I find very few financial advisors out there know anything about Social Security. I've been in the business for 30 years. I know a lot of people. I know some very gifted financial advisors. I know very gifted managers of money, but they don't know squat about Social Security. Last week we looked at spousal benefits, so I'd like to review that a little bit. And in particular, we talked about how spousal benefits can be used with a couple that has a lower income and a higher income benefit. So if there's a small benefit and a higher benefit in a married couple, there's an opportunity with a spousal benefit to receive more money. Just to review, remember that the spousal benefits are available to married couples who've been married for 1 year or more, who are age 62 or older, in which one spouse is collecting a benefit. Age 62 or older, 1 year of marriage, spouse has been collecting a benefit. There's an opportunity, instead of filing for your own benefit, to file for 50% of your spouse's benefit. Now, you might do that if you don't have a lot of work history. This is typically would be for a woman who's been home with children, who's been out of the workforce, who has sacrificed their income as well as their Social Security benefit. So when they get to retirement age, they're better off filing for 50% of their spouse's benefit. So if a spouse has a $3,000 a month benefit, you would be eligible for $1,500. That $1,500 might be more than your own benefit. Those are the people that really benefit from the spousal benefit. These are married couples who've been married for 1 year or more, in which one couple has a high income benefit and the other has a low income benefit. So we can obtain more money by filing for 50% of the spouse's full retirement age benefit. Now, that's the full retirement age benefit. That's not what they were receiving. So if you have a spouse that's receiving a benefit and file for that benefit early, a reduced benefit like at age 62, it's not 50% of that. It's 50% of what they would have received had they waited until full retirement age. Now, if you file for a spousal benefit early, it's going to be reduced. But initially, it's based on 50% of your spouse's full retirement age benefit. 1 year of marriage, this is mainly helpful for those that have low income together with high income. Now I mentioned one of the catches was that the spouse has to be collecting a benefit. And this is true. You can't just file for a spousal benefit. You can't just file for 50% of your spouse's benefit unless they're receiving a benefit. So there's three elements of eligibility. One is age 62, 1 year or more of marriage, spouse collecting a benefit. If your spouse is collecting a benefit, you are eligible for that. You may or may not take it. It depends on whether or not it's a benefit to you, which I talked about a little bit last week, and I'll review with you. The way that you can figure out if this is a benefit is by going to the Social Security office to determine what your earnings statement, going to the Social Security office, go on the Social Security's website, determine what your earnings statement is by getting on there and filing for your own, under My Social Security, and filing for your earnings and benefit statement. If you pull your benefit statement for yourself and for your spouse, you can determine whether or not this is a benefit. If you take half of your spouse's benefit at full retirement age and compare it to your own, is it greater? Is it less? If it's greater, you're better off filing for a spousal benefit. If it's less, you're better off filing for your benefit. Now, I mentioned last week the deemed filing rules. The deemed filing rules were the standard that was set in 2015 with the rule changes. And basically what that meant was that you couldn't pick and choose the benefits. However, you couldn't pick and choose benefits. So you couldn't receive a certain benefit and then turn around and receive another one. Once you filed, that was it. Now, I mentioned an exception to that. And the exception to that, we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more about that at the break. But it's a very important situation for married couples. Welcome back. Let's continue our discussion of the spousal benefit. The spousal benefit is a filing strategy for married couples. It's a strategy in which, even though you receive an earnings and benefit statement from the Social Security Administration, you actually don't file for that. So even though they send you this letter that says this is what your benefit is and it's based on your work history, you actually don't file for that. You ignore it. You actually file on the earnings record of your spouse. And you do that because you can receive more money. This is the most important filing strategy for a married couple. It's actually the strategy that I see the most mistakes in, because I find very few people are even aware of a spousal benefit. It's not something that you're going to go into the Social Security office and they're going to tell you about this. They're going to talk to you about your own earnings record, but they're not going to talk to you about filing on the record of your spouse. Most of these strategies that we're going to talk about today and over the next few weeks are strategies based on filing on the Social Security number of someone else. They're based on filing on the earnings record of someone else. So they're not immediately obvious to most people. They're just opportunities to receive more money than your own work history. So spousal benefits are there for married couples who've been married 1 year or more, in which one spouse is collecting a benefit. And the benefit amount is equal to 50% of your spouse's benefit at full retirement age. So if that 50% is greater than your own, it is an advantage for you and you will receive more money than your own benefit. The most important part about the filing strategy for married couples is just knowing the numbers. I mentioned going to the Social Security's website. I mentioned getting the earnings and benefit statement for yourself and your spouse. That's really all you need to determine whether or not this is going to be helpful or it's not going to be helpful in those situations. It's just simple math. Is 50% of your spouse's benefit greater than your own? Now, I mentioned before that there's a second situation that we use spousal benefits. The first situation is when we have a couple in which we have a high income and a low income. So we have a high benefit and a low benefit. So this is an opportunity for the lower benefit to receive more money. But what about in situations where a couple, where both spouses have more of a work history, have a higher benefit? So it's not necessarily higher or lower. Doesn't necessarily have to be the same, but there isn't so much of a disparity between the two benefits. So what in those situations, what we can also use a spousal benefit to take advantage of the exception that the government gives us for the deemed filing rules and receive more money. Now, I mentioned before deemed filing. The new standard for Social Security is that we don't have the ability to pick and choose our benefits. When we file, that's pretty much it. We don't really have the ability to file a certain way and to turn around and change that at a future date. However, they left some exceptions. And the first exception that we're going to talk about is an exception for married couples. In this situation, we're talking about something called restricted application. And a restricted application is a type of filing application that you use with the Social Security Administration that you restrict your benefits. This is the only real situation that you can do this. So you have the opportunity when you go down to the Social Security's office to file for your benefits while reducing the scope of what you receive. So with a restricted application, you actually go down and you do exactly what the word says, restrict. you actually tell the Social Security Administration you only want to receive spousal benefits, even though you're eligible for your own benefit. And by doing that, you're going to allow your own benefit to continue to increase until age 70. Most of you are probably aware of the delayed retirement credits that take place between full retirement age and 70. It's an 8% a year increase. A lot of people want to take advantage of that. This is a way that you can take advantage of a spousal benefit in the meantime without sacrificing your age 70 benefit. So if you qualify for this exception, you can do that. For those that don't qualify for the exception, again, they're under the deemed filing rules. So once you file, that's it. You don't have the ability to pick and choose. So if you were to file for a spousal benefit, when you come back at age 70 and you go down to the Social Security's office and ask for the higher benefit, they're going to say, oh, no, sir, you've been receiving that. They didn't increase your benefit. So this is the only way that this happens. So a restricted application is one in which you file for spousal benefits only at full retirement age, and then you come back at age 70 and file for your own benefits. So when you file, you don't take your own benefit, even though you're eligible, because you're going to be eligible for your benefit at age 62 or older. You collect the spousal benefit at retirement age while delaying your own benefit. Then at age 70, you switch to your own benefit. So let me repeat that. So when you file with a restricted application, you do not take your own benefit that's based on your work history, even though you are eligible for that. You tell the Social Security Administration that you only want the spousal benefit, while leaving your own benefit alone, so the delayed retirement credits will increase that amount. You collect that spousal benefit in the interim time period while delaying your own benefit. Then you switch to your own benefit later. Now, what does that allow you to do? I see numerous situations where someone is still working and their plan is to work until age 70 and file for their Social Security, which is fine, but they could also be receiving half of their spouse's benefit in the meantime. So it could be some extra money coming in. But this is a strategy that's only available to anybody that was born before 1954. So you have to be eligible for a spousal benefit in general, which is an eligibility of 1 year or more of marriage, age 62, but you also have to turn age 62 by 12/31/15. If you were born and you turn 62 by 12/31/15, you are eligible for this restricted application. For those that were born later, they're not going to have an opportunity of doing that. Now, let me give you a couple examples of how this might be used, and these are real-life examples of situations that I see. I recently met a couple in which one couple was on disability and had been on disability for a number of years. The other spouse was continuing to work, and the plan was to work till age 70. Well, right then, that spouse was eligible, the one that was continuing to work, was eligible for one half of the other spouse's disability benefit. They could have been receiving it right then. It was money that was just being left on the table. They could have received without sacrificing their plan, which was to wait till age 70. One spouse had been disabled for a number of years, did not have a lot of work history, so it wasn't a large disability benefit, but they still could have collected half of it in addition to that while not sacrificing what the benefit was at age 70. This is a restricted application technique, and it's important that you understand restricted application because I want to cover that in future weeks associated with other benefits such as a divorce benefit. And the second thing that I want to share with you, I mentioned before that this is the single biggest reason why this is the single biggest way that people leave money on the table when filing for Social Security benefits. Some of that is just because most people are married, but it's also because most people don't even know about this benefit. I mentioned before that this is something that is not on your earnings statement. It's something that you don't know anything about. The Social Security office is not really going to tell you. You have to know that this is going to be a benefit for you. I recently did a seminar in Gardendale where I had a lady follow up with me relating to this particular strategy, this 1954 strategy. She went down to I helped her, she went down to the Social Security's office, she filed for her benefits. She wanted to file this restricted application benefit, and what the Social Security worker said is, how did you know that you could do this? I don't know anybody that knows how to do this. And her response was, well, I went to a seminar and I learned how to do it. And she said almost no one that she meets knows anything about this and knows anything about this exception. So just to summarize and close out this week's session, the Born Before 1954 strategy is an additional exception that's available. Spousal benefits are available to everyone who have been married for 1 year or more. But for somebody that turns 62 by 12/31/15, they have the opportunity of receiving a spousal benefit while coming back and filing for their own benefit at a later date.
You've been listening to Insights with Philip Wilson, an Alabama registered investment advisor. Learn more by visiting his website at ssmistakes.com or by calling 205-868-9297.